Hey everybody, welcome to Tattva Tuesday. This is Lindsay Warwick, the conduit on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Super excited for my guest today, Deborah Reynolds. She is a image mindset and transformation expert, and I'm so excited that you are sharing your stories and your time with us today. So thanks.
Really happy to be here, Lindsay. This is really a great opportunity to share some insights, but also what's possible for people.
Yes, you are amazing, and everyone is going to find out if they don't already know. They're going to know now. So, just want to do a little reference here. We met virtually at the beginning of January at the JV Top Talent Summit, which was the first time that I'd ever attended one of those types of things. My good friend and my yoga guru, Sid McNary, actually invited me to it. And it was right around the time of my birthday, my 35th birthday. And it just felt like super good for me to do that. And I got to meet really amazing people like you. And so happy to have you here talking about Tattva Tuesday. So the Tattva Tuesday podcast, Tattva is a Sanskrit word that means truth. And typically we talk about our spiritual journeys and our spiritual stories because at a fundamental level, we are spiritual beings, right? Having a human experience. So let's start with, the beginning of your experience. What has been your spiritual experience or your spiritual journey or your conception of a higher being? We'd love to hear about that.
That's such a great question. And it's probably not one that I've really shared online. So I'm really delighted and excited to be able to share this. So I grew up in a Christian family. We weren't really strong Christians. We did the Sunday church thing, and the Bible study or this where the kids go afterwards. So, but my first indication where I actually had a gift that was pretty profound was the age of 12, and I actually was sitting in a hotel room. I was with a group of people. They had kind of gone up the hill skiing, and I was staying behind studying for some French classes. And I was sitting on the bed, and actually, the window to the hotel, like the drapes were open, and I was sitting on the bed studying, and all of a sudden I was looking out the window, and I started to daydream, and it was done in a very sort of relaxed, jovial kind of a way. I was sort of playing, and I just thought, wouldn't it be very funny if this man walked by the window and he was wearing this orange toque and a green scarf, and he was wearing this and he was wearing this, and I actually physically described this person in my mind. And literally, as I'm looking out the window, this person walks by the window wearing exactly what I had described, like the color of jacket and scarf and toque, which was kind of an odd combination. And I, of course, had my eyeballs bigger than saucers in that moment. And I was sort of like, what? And I kind of ran to the window and kind of, peered out. And I just thought, this is really odd. That was my very first experience of seeing something before it had actually happened. And I sort of played with it at home. I can remember having a conversation with my sister and my mom one evening after dinner, and the doorbell rang, and I just jokingly said to my sister, "Oh, that'll be four guys for you." And I just kind of like rattled it off in my head. Well, she goes to the door and opens it, and it was four guys from her school that were standing there at the door. And I just kind of like looked at her, and I looked at mom, and I just thought, I started to laugh. I thought it was funny. And so over the years, I kind of had a series of these events that had taken place. But what I had noticed was when I had gone to university and I started to fill my brain with more intellectual things and was really in the mode of learning, and under a lot of stress for the exams and preparing for exams, is I lost a lot of it. So I found that it actually came to me more naturally when I was relaxed and in a jovial, great mood. And it was sort of a natural process. And I can remember sitting in a restaurant with a friend. We were outside, sort of right next door to a grocery store, and with a full view of sort of the parking lot. And I said, well, let me show you how this would work, as I'm sort of explaining some of the skill sets. And I saw this woman, this older woman, walking across the parking lot with her 2 bags of groceries. And I said, one of her bags is going to break. And there's going to be a couple of grapefruits and like I named the vegetable or the fruits. A couple of apples and a couple of grapefruits and orange is going to roll out of the bag, and it's going to come rolling down kind of on the street there, and she's going to have to bend down and pick it all up. And the next thing you know, her bag breaks, and those exact fruit dropped out and started rolling around. And it was shocking in the moment. I was playing with it, but I was shocked at the accuracy of everything. But the interesting thing is there was never any predictions of anything negative. I did have a car accident that I had where I had the full premonition of what was going to happen in advance. And literally in that moment, and utilizing God as source in that moment, was just saying, God, I need you. I need to know that you're here. Please give me the wisdom and guidance to do the right thing. And managed to avoid the car accident by driving into the ditch. And it was quite profound, because when they took the car to the gas station and they hoisted it up, there was not even any scratches on the vehicle. The only thing was the whole tire and the wheel well was embedded with gravel from the ditch, but there was no dents in the car. There was no scratches on the paint. There was no damage to the undercarriage of the vehicle. So I knew in that moment that I was protected. And I wanted to use that skill set for praying for other people, for the protection of other people in my life. To me, that was really important, to use it for other people, to see if I had the gift, I want to be able to share it and use it for other people.
Wow, that's really powerful and amazing. And I know we've had some conversations like about our lives and who I am and who you are. But as you're speaking and talking about the protection, that very clear link that you have to source, I can identify with that. I've been working with the Archangel Michael energy, Christ consciousness energy since I can remember. And I also would have dreams and premonitions of things. And when you said to protect people, to use it to protect people, I feel the same way. And I feel that Archangel Michael energy is the angel that you call on for protection. And so I feel that is probably why we connected. I feel that, Archangel Michael always brings the soul family together. So, I mean, you're also a clear manifest. It seems like things come, like you are able to manifest things. And I know you've told me some amazing stories about that I want to get to. But when you said source, I would just love to hear about what that means to you. Like, how do you define your source?
So the way that it works for me, the way that I feel that it works is I believe in God and I believe in Christ. I believe from the biblical perspective. So when we talk about deep passions and interests, I have been studying the Bible since I was very young, and not diligently every single day, but consistently throughout my life. Taking a series of other types of Bible studies and courses, and reading on spirituality, reading about law of attraction, reading about Christianity and different perspectives and meanings of like Hebrew, Greek interpretation of different words. I find that topic fascinating. So when I'm talking about source, I do believe it is God inspired. It is a God source and Christ oriented. That's what it means for me. So and I know that other people may think it's more universe oriented and they may have a different kind of an interpretation. But I have had so many indications in my life that that's what it is for me. That's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have those reminders and indications, to me, that's really important. I mean, over the years, I spent a number of years traveling throughout North America as a speaker. So I would fly into a city and either fly from city to city or drive between cities. And while I had my map with me, I mapped the routes out ahead of time. There was continually in the process of driving at night when it's dark, not knowing the direction, it would be, please give me a sign, please God show me a sign, please direct me, tell me where I need to go, I trust your wisdom. I'm talking out loud in the car, and the next thing you know, I am seeing the sign of where it is that I need to go. And I was actually never steered wrong. It was a consistent process of watching over me and making sure I got there safely where I needed to go. And even to this day, Lindsay, every time I get into a vehicle, or in any kind of mode of transportation, whether I'm driving or whether I'm a passenger, I'm always saying, thank you for guiding me safely to where I need to go and safely back home again. Thank you for protecting our vehicle. And to me, that I do it without fail. It's just an automatic thing that comes out. It's intentional. It's intentional when I say.
Mhm. That's really amazing too. And this just keeps coming through for me. The Archangel Michael is the angel of travel as well. So it's just seems very aligned. I just feel a lot of Archangel Michael energy just talking to you. And that's amazing. And thank you for sharing that, and I love that you said you did reference that for you, this is your truth. And that's what the whole podcast is. Like, it came to me in the beginning of last year, the end of 2021, this concept of talking to people from all different walks of life about their spiritual journey. And it can be a different conception for you or a different conception for other people. But I'm finding like there are some similarities with the different guests. So I think that is super fascinating. So let's dive into some of those manifestation stories. I love the one about your husband is pretty excellent. If you want to start there, or if there's another story that you didn't get to share with me that you'd like to share here. And then I really want to get into like what you do as a transformation coach.
Perfect. Thank you. So yeah, I will share this story about my husband because I think it's really relevant to a lot of people. People are searching for love. They want that ideal relationship. And perhaps they want to know, what's the process? How do you get it? And I
Mhm.
want to share what process worked for me. So I chose to get a little bit married later in life. And when I mean later, it was in my 30s rather than in my 20s. Most of my friends, when I was in high school in my early 20s, were quite a bit older than me. I was watching a lot of them get married, and they were also getting divorced. And I thought, I don't want to experience that. So I was finishing up my degree in university, and I was dating, of course, but probably dating the wrong people. Clearly, dating a lot of the wrong people. Obviously, getting pretty unhappy with the process, and feeling the sense of abandonment or rejection, and why are these people walking away? And in hindsight, I really believe that was source going, they're driving them away because they're the wrong people for me. So when you kind of look back and you think somebody's rejected you, I think that's really a sign going, thank the big guy upstairs that that's actually
Protection.
happening, because there's a reason why they're walking away. So when I finally got serious about wanting to have a partner in my life, I decided to kind of work at it like a project, where I actually grabbed a notebook and I wanted to put things in writing and be very definitive about it. So what it is I started to think about every person that I had dated, and I wrote down all his qualities, his characteristics, what the relationship was like, how I felt in the relationship, and got really clear about each person. And then what I did was I took what I felt, if there were any really good qualities about that person, what is it that I really loved or appreciated about that person? And I wrote them on a separate piece of paper. So as I go through the list, I'm refining and taking one full list of everything that I loved or appreciated about the individual. And then I started to refine that list and go, okay, what do I want in a partner? And really what I wanted was this is again, being intentional about, what do you want long term? I wanted a lifelong relationship, a long lifelong relationship. And I only wanted to be married once. I didn't want to be married multiple times. So, and I think it's really clear that you put that in your mind and your
Mhm.
heart, that that is the intention that you want. So I started to write down the qualities and characteristics of what I wanted in an ideal partner. And what I had found was the more detail that I got, the easier it sort of became. I was crafting more detail about this person. And then I started the process of going out on dates. So again, that was a very intentional process. When I was going out on dates, I decided in my mind it would only be 1 or 2 dates. That would be it. So if it's one date, I would have a series of questions that I would have for this person about who they are and their character. If it felt pretty interesting, I would have a second date. And if it wasn't clearly the right person for me and I didn't feel within my whole body and spirit that this was the right person to pursue a relationship further, then I would just say, it's wonderful meeting you, but I'm really looking for that, that long-term relationship. I wish you well and see you later.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally like shopping for a pair of shoes. You try it
Oh,
on, and you go, nope, doesn't fit, don't like the look of it. I'm going to push it aside and move on. So I again kind of went back to that list and refined and refined and refined. So with each person that I was dating, I refined the list of what I don't want and what I do want. Now, it is a lot easier for people to often start with what don't I want in a relationship if they've had a lot of bad relationships or difficult ones or strained or frustrating. So it's easy to start with that. And then what you do is on the opposite side of the page, you're writing what is the positive, most admirable type of quality that you could think that would be opposite of the something that you didn't like. So as I refined the list, I also got to the point where I physically described the person on the list. Seems kind of odd, but I actually, said, okay, 5'11", 6 feet, blonde hair, blue eyes, reddish brown mustache, very fair skin. Like I was pretty specific about what it is that I wanted. And then there was one evening I had this chance to go visit my parents and have a chat with them. I took the list with me and they were sitting at the kitchen table and I read out the list and they both just kind of like looked at each other and they said, Debbie, you're going to have to lower your standards. Like it's just not a realistic list. And so I kind of laughed and then I kind of paused and I went, no, I don't think so. I'm not going to lower my standards. But it was time to leave. I had to drive home. And then I got this epiphany on the way home. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to lower my standards. So who is it? And this is a really important question that you need to ask. Who is it that I need to become to attract this person into my life? Now, I've been doing a lot of reading about law of attraction and process,
mm-hmm.
but we're talking, this is well over 30 years ago that this happened. Okay. So long before a lot of the typical day-to-day gurus that you're seeing out there for law of attraction, this was, I was in my late 20s when I was like, who do I need to become to attract this person, this loving human being into my life? And it's a really important question because now the process of, while I had my list refined, it was now going to work on me and becoming the very best version of me, qualities, characteristics, how I wanted to be in a relationship, in a partnership, what that would take to have a lifelong relationship, which is that loyalty, that commitment, that trust element, staying through, like literally what the vows say, the wedding vows, for rich or for poor, for, sickness, health, that you're committed to the process, whether it's an easy process in a relationship or it has a series of difficult processes, which all relationships are going to have that kind of a process. So then, because I had physically described him so well, when I went to and it was a work-related event that I went to, he was an RCMP member, Royal Canadian Mounted Police for our lovely Americans, and I was working as an immigration investigator, and we went to what's called a contact party. It was just an evening event where we would connect with other law enforcement security people in other departments and divisions and agencies where we would share information. So, and somebody had said, oh, you haven't met Ken. And I looked across the room and I kind of gasped. I went, oh my God, he's like that blonde-haired, blue-eyed, fair-skinned gentleman with the reddish-brown mustache. Today it's all beautiful silver with a lovely goatee. But I kind of laughed because it was in the moment quite shocking to go, really? Did I manifest this person? And then the key thing here is I did not pursue him, he pursued me. I stepped back. I thought, if this is real, if this is who I'm meant to be with, he will naturally pursue me in this process. It'll come about. And it happened. We've been together for well, gosh, we since 92, and then married in 1994. And then we're at the end of this month, we're coming up with an anniversary. So 29 years married. So it's, every marriage has its difficulties and its issues. But I was really specific when I was a teenager. I said I wanted to marry a man with 2 children, and I didn't want to have any children of my own. I uttered that out of my mouth, and that became my reality.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I love that, this occurred before, sounds like before the Abraham Hicks. I'm not even sure the timeline of Abraham Hicks and the law of attraction teachings. And now there's also, other programs like the To Be magnetic manifestation techniques, where you're working on your self-worth and upping your internal frequency to attract what you want. But it sounds like so similar to my story with my divine partner. I made a list and also asked myself, how can I become those things? And, pursued the shamanic rose priestess path and all the things. And I met him in a sweat lodge, literally. Like, we're both in that realm, and there's been so many beautiful things. And I pulled out the list the other day, and I mean, it's him. So it's so possible, and it is amazing how powerful of creators we really are, and powerful manifestors that we are. So yeah, that is just an amazing story. Like, so cool. And I'm sure you've shared, he knows about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you said that you allowed him to pursue you, because I also allowed for my partner to pursue me, like to take a step back, and if it's going to work out, then you're going to come for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's it's cool that you mentioned that. It's amazing.
That point, which I really want the audience to be aware of, when you're pursuing things and you make this real push, push, push to make things happen, is not the way that manifestation is to work. It is a real ease and flow. It's a very graceful process. It's filled with a lot of love. There's a real intention from focus, energy, working towards the process, but it is not a manipulation process. It is not a pushing to make things happen. And that's where things go wrong in a lot of cases. Is you're pushing way too hard, so therefore you're not getting what it is that you want. And the ease and flow of making things happen is a really crucial thing. Sometimes you think the thought, and then it is a very intentional statement, a declaration, an emotional commitment to the process. So it doesn't have to be high emotion. I just want people to be aware that a lot of teachers are saying, we want you to jump up and down and be super happy and super exuberant. It doesn't have to happen that way. I can remember when I was actually working for immigration, I went to a seminar and a workshop at a major hotel in Vancouver, and there was probably a good 300 people in the audience, and there was a female speaker on stage. And as I'm listening to this, I actually intentionally in my head said, I want to do that one day. I want to stand on stage and I want to be a speaker just like her. And I became that. That was a very intentional process. So, and then in my mind, I either knew that I wanted to be a lawyer or I wanted to be a police officer in my mind. Things don't always appear or show up in the exact same way that we declare it. However, when I worked in immigration, we were law enforcement agencies, federally, tracking down foreign criminals, but we were removing them through an administrative process, quasi-administrative process, rather than the criminal process through the courts. So, and then if we were tracking down foreign criminals, and we wanted to remove them from the country for deportation purposes, the exact same paperwork, statutes, conviction certificates, police reports, fingerprints, all the same evidence is gathered, and the same documentation is done for gathering evidence for deportation as lawyers would do in an extradition hearing to remove somebody from the country.
Mm.
So I realized, wow, here I wanted to be a lawyer, did my 5 years of university with a double major, and then went, you know what, I think I want to go to work. I don't think I want to go and do another, 3 years of law school articling. I don't think I want that for my life. So I didn't pursue that, but I had the same experience. And even though I did not become a police officer by trade, we were doing the exact same things that police officers were doing, just without weapons. So those two elements came together beautifully in a different way, and I still made an enormous impact as an immigration investigator. So even these desires that we have show up in completely different ways. So again, this is about you having your eyes wide open and paying attention to, is it similar but not exactly the same as what you declared, but still going to give you the very best of experiences. I mean, I didn't want to be fighting drunks rolling underneath a police car. Who wants that? So I didn't have to experience those things. I kind of got the best of both worlds. Which
Mhm.
was fascinating work, and no 2 days were alike. So sometimes it's even better than what we anticipated if we allow it to happen.
Yeah, and also I feel that when you share about, okay, I wanted to be a lawyer, but I ended up doing this, and it brought the same feelings to you that maybe being a lawyer might have. So I feel that also manifestation is about how, like when you mention your list with your relationship with your husband, how do I want to feel is like a huge thing. So I think that is super fascinating. And I mean, yeah, I used to like watch podcasts, listen to podcasts and say, God, I would love to do that. And I love to talk to people about their spiritual experiences. Like you studied the Bible. I love to hear that. I've, I've read the Bible. I've looked into different other theology as well, Buddhism and Taoism and, you know, um, all the different religions. I'm completely fascinated by that. And so yeah, I love that you shared that your manifestations might not look exactly like you thought that they would. So or like, yeah, if that even makes sense, but you said it so eloquently.
The one of the interesting things from a manifestation point of view is you can heal your body,
Mhm.
and you can create disease. I can speak to those two.
Yes.
Um, you can also find the home of your dreams, and everything in terms of what it is that you're wanting in terms of the feature of the home. And you know what? We've done that as well. So I'm thinking nothing is really off limits when it comes to manifestation. You can create what it is that you want. And the key thing is it's controlling that state inside, making sure that you're genuinely content and happy, and that you are enjoying the process and experience. So it's enjoying what you have right now and being deeply grateful for it as you're
Mhm.
moving through the process and waiting for the manifestation to come about. Because I have to tell you, once I got really clear on what I wanted in terms of a partner, he showed up really quickly.
Oh
This is
yeah.
not months and months and months down the road. No, it's a really quick process. So it's you just need to be aware that once you set the attention, then things, and you need to take action towards the process of what it is that you're doing. It's like whenever you set a goal, you take the first step moving forward towards it. So you want to do the exact same thing when you're manifesting. You take the initiative. So when I was looking for the ideal partner, it was like, okay, I'm going to have to start dating to
Mhm.
see how that shows up. It's not like he's going to ring my doorbell. So it's, you do have to put yourself out there, and that's where a lot of people find, they have a little trepidation, a little bit of fear, and a little bit of angst around the process. But it is all about trusting the source that you're going to be well taken care of in the process.
Yeah, I feel like that trust component is huge. Absolutely. I think I'm just so blown away by this conversation already. It's so powerful. Let's talk about what you said. You know, you can manage, you can heal your body. I just like what I was running errands this morning, and I was talking to my friend who is also spiritual as well. And we were actually talking about hair growth and how she hasn't cut her hair in so many years, but the last time she went to get a haircut, it had been like 5 years, and her hairdresser said, "How long has it been since you had a haircut?" And she said, "Well, I don't really cut my hair. I just manifest that my hair is healthy and will continue to grow." And she said, "Well, your hair is amazing for not being cut for 5 years." So we were just talking about how, yes, you can heal your body and you can manifest things in your, I call this the meat sack, in the meat sack. So yeah, you shared an amazing story with me before about healing your body. So can you share that with the audience?
Absolutely. So when I was in my early 40s, I was starting to generate intrauterine fibroids, okay, for our female audience.
Mm-hmm.
So I still kind of had this idea that possibly I might want to have children. But really what it was is I really wanted a healthy body, essentially. So I was developing these intrauterine fibroids that were actually growing to such a state that I was bleeding a lot when I was having my periods. So, and I'm talking, I had to look at the clock and it was 30 minutes. I'm going to be pretty graphic here. It was every 30 minutes, it was like I was off to the washroom.
Oh.
So I actually got to the point where I did a full physical and I did the blood work, and my hemoglobin was dangerously low. So when the report came back, my doctor actually phoned me at home and she said, Debbie, we're going to have to do an emergency hysterectomy on you because if you were in a car accident and you were bleeding, she said you would go into shock like almost immediately because your hemoglobin is so low that your body just wouldn't have the oxygen available to it. So it would be really critically dangerous for you if you had any kind of blood loss whatsoever. So I had been working with this female doctor and a female gynecologist for years, trying to reverse the symptoms of the growing fibroids. I was taking a number of courses. I was taking progesterone cream. I was kind of following a lot of these guidelines that these healthcare practitioners were talking about.
Mm.
Even to the point of going vegan and um, changing my diet up, but nothing was working to stopping the growth. So um, I actually did not want to have a hysterectomy. So oddly enough, when we look at coincidences, I had at that point was seeing a woman who was exceptional doing artificial nails. And she had shared with me that her very first child they had lost due to sort of a mix up in chromosomes and was only alive for an hour after birth. But she was treated at the Women's Healthcare Clinic in Vancouver, which is a different kind of facility than any of sort of the major hospitals. They actually focused on women's health specifically. She was telling me what the amazing team was. So this was a few years earlier so that she had told me this. So as I'm doing my research, I'm actually pulling books off my own library shelf at home. And one of Christian Northrup's book, Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, she actually had an intrauterine fibroid that grew to the size of a basketball. She shares this in her book. And so she was taking a drug called Luprin to reduce the size of the fibroid before she actually had the surgery. Because sometimes if the fibroids are too large, you have to be cut vertically instead of a bikini cut, like a C-section.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm reading her book, she had lots of modalities that she had shared, which would be alternatives to having a hysterectomy. And I was really surprised that none of those were shared with me. So I phoned the doctor the next morning and I said, I'm not coming in and scheduling a hysterectomy. I need you to refer me to one of the best specialists that handles fibroids at the Women's Health Clinic. They made the appointment. I go in and see this amazing, amazing surgeon who's one of the best in the country. And she says, "Oh, Debbie, of course we could remove your fibroid and we could repair your uterus just in case you wanted to have kids." So I'm thinking, so why is it that these other two doctors were recommending a hysterectomy. And she says, well, a lot of them just don't stay current and up to date in terms of what's available for the latest research in terms of surgery or treatment for anything. So long story short, I had the surgery, the uterus was repaired. I do follow-up appointments to go see her, and another little fibroid was growing. And I said, so what's going to happen here down the road? And she goes, well, eventually, she said, we'll either have to redo the surgery or you're going to need a hysterectomy at some point, possibly. And I said, so what would stop it? Like, what would be the possibilities of turning it around? She says, the only way to stop the fibroid from growing is if you went into menopause, early menopause. Now, I really listened intently to what she said. When I left that appointment, I go out to my car. I'm sitting in the front seat of my car, and I look down, and now I'm in my early 40s. And I just said, you're done. I'm pointing downwards. You're done. No more periods. You're finished. And from that day forward, I never had a single other period after that. It was finished, and I didn't experience the menopausal symptoms that a typical person would experience going into early menopause, but I've had no issues, and I have all my organs, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's working really well. So that was a real indication to me. That was sort of the first experience of really healing my body, where I thought, and we're not talking about joy in this moment. That was a real firm conversation with that I had with my body. It was a direction. It was a command. It was intense. And it was just, you're done. That's it. You're finished. And I had another experience shortly thereafter in the shower where I was shaving my legs, I mean, of all things.
Mm-hmm.
And I got tired of doing that. Same thing, same intensity, the same direction, looking at my legs. And I just said, no more hair growth on the legs. That's it. You're done. And my legs to this day have been beautiful, baby smooth.
I'm
So
trying that one.
there's a few other things that I've done in terms of pain, of stopping pain in my body. The major thing that I'm working on right now is, the audience, if they were looking up my bio, would know that I was diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia in 2011. So there is a story of manifestation around that, but the opposite way. I was having challenges in my business, and I had critical illness insurance on the business, and I wanted the cash. And I thought, well, one way of getting cash is getting cancer. And I think it's really important for the audience to be aware of. You need to be very much aware of what you utter out of your mouth and what your intentions are in your mind, because you just may create what it is that you have uttered. And I ended up being diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia. They call it CLL. And thankfully, it is the slowest growing cancer. The prognosis is 15 to 30 years. And often people can go their entire lives and be, they could die from something else rather than it. So I had an aunt who had it, and I think she was 95 years old when she passed. So it is the most common cancer. We just don't hear a lot about it because the prognosis is so lengthy. But I've not had any medication. I've not had any chemo or radiation or anything like that. No cancer treatment with it. They just monitor my blood. So what it does is it positions me to go, how do I need to take care of my body now?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think sometimes we take that for granted, and perhaps it's a really good lesson of I don't view it as a curse. I view it as a real blessing, in the sense of, I stopped coloring my hair and love the silver in my hair. I've removed all the artificial nails, which are chemicals. I use all natural cleaners in the house. I'm pretty natural in terms of what I use on my body, and clean the clothes, those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
And even diet is relatively, it's whole foods, clean, healthy foods predominantly. So I think it's really important that we pay attention, that when we get all these signs and these issues, it really is, what is it you're saying to yourself? What is the intention behind it? And declaring new things. Now, over the years since then, I've been introduced to Dr. Joe Dispenza in terms
Oh,
of,
yeah.
so when we've done the other parts, I've done the other parts of healing the body, I'm thinking, okay, you know what? I can reverse a lot of things with this too. I'm pretty confident in how this process works. So manifestation can be used in any of your area of your life, from healing things, your body, creating relationships, money, We've used it to create the home of, the home of our dreams, and create the environment that we want to live in. So you can use it for pretty much anything in your life for the experiences. It's just the intention is not to create harm to other people. The intention comes from
Hmm.
a space of loving yourself and loving the people around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you mentioned that too, because, everybody has free will. So manifesting for yourself, I'm all about it. But that type of manifesting for others or manipulation of free will or harm, yeah, absolutely. That is a hard no for me too. But, I am like about your diagnosis, and also that you can find a clear correlation to where the thoughts and the feelings where it stemmed from. And I'm glad that you are doing well and have found this new way of natural living. And it's interesting because, like, I don't know, I just feel so paralleled with you today. I feel very like we're mirroring each other. But recently I like stopped coloring my hair and I stopped doing the nails. I don't even put nail polish on anymore. And I was getting Botox. I don't do that anymore. So it's just interesting how you just, if you can listen, if you can quiet at least for a little bit a day, like your body is going to tell you, and your higher self or God source is going to tell you what you need and to tune in. And I'm also curious to know, when did you find out that you had cancer? Like, what was there, like, did you have a premonition, or was it just something felt off in the body, or how did you find that?
So September 2011, I actually had gone for my regular physical, and I get the blood reports online, as a lot of people do, and I reviewed them, and I was looking at what was out of order, and the only thing that was sort of out of normal range was lymphocytes, and I did not know what they were. So, like any normal person, I Googled, what is this? But in that afternoon, like, I didn't say anything to my husband. I was just Googling, and I probably spent 2.5 hours researching online, including on medical websites. But a lot of it is the questions that you ask. What could cause elevated lymphocytes? And there was about 17 different reasons. What caught my eye on one of the medical sites was could be, but not necessarily related to multiple myeloma, which is another form of a blood cancer, which my father had. So I made the appointment the next day for the doctor just to go in and to talk about it. Now, here's the interesting part. Let me back up. So prior to that, my father had passed, and he had multiple myeloma, which was sort of the first in our family that had cancer, which was quite a surprise. That experience in life, and this is what I want the audience to know, your previous experiences, good or bad, are often preparation for certain things that you may experience in the future. Not always,
Mhm.
but there are real lessons out of that. So I was predominantly his voice with the doctors, in helping him and supporting him, and then the family all rallied around to give him great support. Now, they actually wrote him off. They said, "You'll be dead in 6 months." They actually wrote him a letter. And we were determined, no, that wasn't going to happen. And I did a tremendous amount of research for him, and actually found a modality and presented it to him. He had a science background. He was a math teacher. And I said, "I think this is going to work for you." And it turned out to be parasite cleansing. And I brought him quite extensive research, and he read it. And he goes, "I want to do this." And I said, "Okay." So we managed to push his cancer into remission, which was unheard of. And then they delayed it for a period of time. He actually had a leaky valve in his heart, and then he ended up dying on the operating table from the heart surgery. But he lived well beyond the expiration date that the doctors had
Mhm.
given. But that was a real powerful lesson for me, because it taught me how to communicate with the doctors, and really to challenge a lot of them, and to make sure they knew what they were doing, and not just going by what the norm is, but really insisting great care. That served me in the future with my nephew, where he had a really serious critical injury, a crush injury on one of his hands, in communicating with the doctors and finding the right treatment for him to save his hand instead of having it amputated. And then, of course, with my diagnosis. And so I'm also very careful to say I don't have cancer, that I was diagnosed with cancer. And so to me, that is really important, is to have the distinction of the language that we're commonly using, and to constantly say, like when I wake up in the morning, sort of the first bit of energy when you're conscious and awake, going, I'm so excited for today. I have loads of energy. I'm just feeling great. Like I tell myself and pump myself up even before I'm kind of really opening my eyes, so that I have the experience that I want to have during the day. And I have really great energy, even though I've got slightly low iron right now. I actually have really great energy throughout the day. And what I feel is really great brain power. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really monitoring my body and how it goes. But, looking at your own blood reports, paying attention to what's going on around you and what's
The
happening with
doctor
your body.
didn't point that out, huh?
Yeah, you need to pay attention. So I go to the doctor, I'm asking him, like, questioning about the blood report. And he goes, oh, Deb, you're just probably fighting a virus, because lymphocytes are the only white blood cells that fight viruses. And he says, you've been fighting a virus, probably a low grade one, for a couple of years. And I said, okay, here's what I read online, knowing that he kind of rolled his eyes at me. But I was pretty adamant. I wasn't going to let, just because he has a doctorate degree, doesn't mean that I'm going to be intimidated by that. And I said, look, there must be a test to do to confirm whether I have cancer or not. And he goes, yeah, it's called flow cytometry. I said, well, I want it done. And he goes, well, I don't think we need to do it. And I just got mad at him. I want it done. Do it. And he's like, all right, we'll do it. And then it comes back positive. And the attitude around a diagnosis, I think, is really important, which shapes going forward. It's really having that center of control within you, of making the decisions that you really honestly feel that are right for you. So, when he phones me, he was the one who said, 15 to 30-year prognosis, chances are you'll die of something else before you dive in. And I'm like, great, what are the next steps? And he goes, okay, we'll get you off to see an oncologist. And it took a couple. I went through, and the second oncologist was the one that I chose. And when I'm telling my husband, his first wife had died of cancer. And so I was, she died almost 20 years earlier of cancer by the time that I was diagnosed. So um, I I just said, like, what are you crying for? Like, it's like we're all going to die of something one day. It's like, get over it. Let's just live our life and be happy. And I said, this is putting me into a position now where I can make some really solid, concrete decisions of what's going to work for me in my life. And that is important, is that you feel as an individual empowered, whether it's with your own body, how you want your life to unfold, how you want your relationships to unfold, how you want, money, finances, career, home to evolve, the things that you want around you. You get an element of control there. You get to create. And to me, that's really important. Is the manifestation process is a creation process. You have
Mm-hmm.
these gifts and talents inside of us that typically people think speaking, writing, painting, sketching, molding, sculpting. Um, but talents can also be the manifestation process of creation on a very deep level. And it could also be touching the hearts and souls of other people and impacting other people. So when you think of creation, I really want you to go well beyond yourself. And I really want you to think of it in a very broad term of, how do you influence and impact large numbers of people?
Oh my God, that's so powerful. Like everything that you're saying, I'm like, and it's kind of like perfect timing because we're coming up on an hour. And I would love for you to just kind of share about what you do as an image and transformation coach expert. Just share with the audience what you do, what you offer, and then also how people can reach you. And I feel like I could just listen to you tell stories for hours. Like it's just amazing to hear from you and connect with you in this way. And I'm excited that we are forming a relationship. And I like love to continue to obviously stay in touch with you and everything. I just am like fascinated by your story. So thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. I so appreciate that. And the question as far as what I do as an image mindset and transformation expert. So I started my career as a makeup artist and then an image consultant, physically dressing and grooming people. So I still do that. I groom executives and people in leadership positions. But when it comes to image and grooming, think of image comes from the Greek term I am, imagio, I am. So that is defining who you are and your identity and who you are. So Maxwell Maltz's book, Psycho-Cybernetics, as a plastic surgeon, he would make somebody over and then they would look in the mirror and still not feel beautiful. So the process of transformation and creating an image for somebody is an inside out process. It is mindset, habits, behaviors, their thoughts, their pictures in their head, their images in their head, so that they can project that forward into who they want to become. It's no different than when I said, who do I need to be to attract the person in my life that I want to be? That is an identity thing, having the confidence of going, I can have that partner in my life. I just need to shift who I am as a person and become the very best person to be able to manifest who and what it is that I want. So the confidence part of it is a really huge part of it, but a lot of it is the internal self-image, the self-confidence, the self-esteem that we have, how we feel about ourselves, and getting over what we call the saboteurs, the ways that we sabotage ourselves. So from a mindset point of view, that's when I work with people is how they deal with the thoughts in their head and how they get over the fears that they're not good enough, the fears of rejection, the fears of abandonment, lack of success or fear of success, those sorts of things, of moving through that so that they can literally change, renew, empower, and transform who they are and their lives and what they're experiencing in their life. And, it could be moving an executive into a higher level position, a VP becoming a CEO of a company, up leveling a business leader into growing and scaling their business to think on a bigger scale of what's possible in their business and then how to put pieces into place. So it is, I work with leaders, business leaders as well, that own their own companies, as well as senior executives in companies or corporations. And I speak and I train on everything from strategic thinking and analytical thinking and critical thinking, creative thinking, change management, leadership issues, and how to build team and communicate with team. But here's what we're talking about. Everything that we acquire in life is with and through other people. We don't do anything alone. Sorry, we just don't. Not even showering. Somebody created the shower, the tile, the tiles, they had the bath towels created or the body soap created. Somebody brought that to market and put it on the shelves. So everything that we experience in life is with and through other people. So it's about building really great relationships. And when you do that, you can basically attain anything that you want in life.
Amazing. So if people would like to connect with you, what is the best way?
The very best way is they can go to my website, deborahreynolds.com. That's DeborAh, and then Reynolds, REYNOLDS. And they can connect with me there. They can also connect with me through LinkedIn and Facebook as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so, so much for your time and energy and conversation and your honesty. I'm super honored to have this time with you, and I hope the listeners or viewers, however you decide to consume the podcast, I'm sure that they will find it fascinating as well. And if you want to reach out to Deborah, please do. Anything else you'd like to share, Deborah?
Thank you, Lindsay. Appreciate it. It was such an honor. And I look forward to perhaps doing another podcast together.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much. Everyone have a great day.